Hello friends, welcome to this 15-minute yin practice. This is a great way to start every day before you even step out of bed in the morning, or to finish each day before you go to sleep in the evening. I'll take you through a series of about 8 postures, and the idea is that you feel engaged in the parts of the body that I'm asking you to feel engaged in. That doesn't mean pain, it just means that you feel like you're being stretched and almost massaged in these areas. You should be able to breathe freely and never again look for pain. We're not pushing to that point. So the first position, we're looking to feel engagement in the hips. So for shoestring, you might start with simply pulling your ankles so they come just underneath your knees. So you're pulling your ankles, your feet, to the far ends of the mat or the bed, and you're letting your knees relax. If you feel this in your hips, wonderful. You want to stay in this position for 10 breaths. Be sure that you switch sides after your first 10 breaths and then do another 10 breaths on the other side. For some of you, you might not feel this in your hips. You might want to go a little bit deeper. In that case, you simply stack your knees in a line, bringing one knee on top of the other. And again, do 10 breaths on one side, 10 breaths on the other side. But again, for some of you, you might not get great sensation here, and so you might want to do the posture in more complete sense. So with that, the idea is you bring your ankle on top of your knee, letting your foot rest on top of your knee, and ideally both sides. For me, I don't have the flexibility in my hips so that this side touches, but perhaps for some of you, it will touch quite easily. In any case, as long as you feel the engagement in your hips, not pain, but almost like you're being massaged, that's the ideal. If you want to take the position even further, on all options, you can fold forward, releasing the tension in your head and your neck. Fold forward as much as comfortable. After you do both sides, breathing for 10 breaths on each side, you can move into the second position. For this one, dragonfly, we're looking to feel the engagement on the inner thighs. So spread your legs as wide as is comfortable. Then you might want to go a little bit further by pressing your hands behind you and scooting your hips forward. As long as you're feeling it on the inner thighs, you're in perfect position. And again, you're going to take 10 breaths, folding forward. You might find that it gets quite comfortable for you, and so you might want to move forward a little bit more and a little bit more. When you get to your maximum, when you feel the engagement to the maximum extent on your inner thighs, simply release the tension in your head and your neck and breathe. It doesn't matter how wide open you have your legs, doesn't matter if the toes are pointing to the sky, inside, outside, if the knees are up. The most important thing is that you really feel this engagement. Now for some of you, if you have a lower back in particular that's a bit rounded, you might not feel this in your inner thighs at all in this position. In that case, you want to come to butterfly. You've got a couple of options here. You can have the feet together but far away from you. If you feel this in your inner thighs, and not your hips but the inner thighs, then this is perfect. You come here, you fold forward, and you breathe for 10. Now when I do this, I tend to feel it in my outer thighs. So I want to bring my feet a little bit closer, maybe even holding onto my toes, wiggling until my pelvis is pretty much touching my heels. And then I'm going to feel the intense pressure or sensation on the inner thighs, and I can release my head, neck, shoulders here. The idea is that you just want to melt into the earth. When I'm in this position, I like to cross one arm with the other, and that gives me a bit of support for my head. Breathing here for 10 breaths. Now we've done a lot of melting forward, so to counteract that, as I transition to the next position, I like to do a reversed tabletop. Feet are on the mat, knees are bent, hands are behind me with my fingertips towards my hips. This gives me a chance to roll my shoulders back and lift my heart. You could stay here with your chest lifted and simply breathe, or you can lift your hips so that your knees, thighs, hips, belly, chest, heart, it's all in a nice line. You don't want to feel any tension in your neck, but you do want to sort of open yourself up and breathe here. You don't need to stay for 10 breaths, just whatever feels comfortable. And if this is too easy for you, you can always extend your legs long and lift here. Once you feel like your heart is open and you're breathing freely, lower yourself down, but let your back get really long as you lower yourself down. Almost like you're scooting your belly button between the knees and then coming down one vertebrae after the other. If you do this correctly, you should feel a little bit of engagement in your triceps, warming up the arm muscles. Great. Coming into the next position. For this one, we've got legs straight. Ultimately, we're going to feel this in the back of our thighs, in our hamstrings. But to ease into that, I like to flex my toes. Already, that's a nice way to sort of wake up or release a bit of tension that I might be feeling in my ankles. It's also nice to engage the calf muscles. Gives you a chance also to move the fleshy part of your bottom away from your sit bones. If this is comfortable for you, you want to take it a little bit further, why not hold onto your toes or your shins or your knees, wherever is comfortable for you. You can also use a belt or a strap. When you do this, you might have a tendency to let your shoulders roll forward. Take this as an opportunity to roll your shoulders back. Open your chest. Let your heart move forward. Have the sensation that your shoulders are expanding so they reach out to touch both walls. Have the sensation that your heart is moving forward. And simply breathe here. You're going to feel this mostly in the calves, maybe a little bit in your hamstrings or the back of your thighs. We're just doing this to sort of warm up the shoulders a bit. Also, you can kind of engage your biceps, your arm muscles a little bit here as you pull on the feet or the shins or the knees. Also, to take it a bit further, think about your shoulder blades. You want your shoulder blades to move as low down on your back as possible, like they're melting towards your hips. In that case, you start engaging some of your back muscles. Just breathe here for a little bit. It's just a transition. And then we'll go into the complete posture. So for this, you're going to bow forward, letting your heart melt forward. For a lot of us, this is really intense on the hamstrings, and this just isn't possible. To soften the pressure a little bit, you can always give yourself a little bit of a hug. Having your arms underneath you takes some of the pressure off the hamstrings, but it lets you still get this nice, deep stretch. And then let your head, your heart melt towards the earth. I'm going to breathe here for 10. Doesn't matter if your legs are together for this position. You just want to feel this in the backs of your thighs. Good. So for the next position, we're going to do a bit of a twist. So lie down on your mat. And as you transition into this twist, why not take the opportunity to stretch as long as you can? Let your fingertips reach for one wall, your toes reach for the other, and then press your lower back into the mats. Just take a nice little stretch. You can even stretch over to the left, stretch over to the right. Good. And then let's go for our twist. So for the twist, bring your right knee into your heart and simply let that leg fall over to the side. You want to keep your arms, your shoulders glued to the ground like a cactus. Good. Maybe even open your arms. And to take this stretch a bit further, you can look away from your bent knee. For some of us, this might work fine. If this does nothing for you, go for Garudasana legs. Take the legs, twist them one over the other, and then let the knees fall to the side. Okay. And then open your arms like a cactus here. If that doesn't allow you to feel the engagement in your lower back along your spine, then another option is to bring the knees closer to your body. Maybe just pressing one hand against your thigh, and then looking away. Another option is to drop your lower knee, the knee that's in contact with your bed or your yoga mat. Let that knee slide down towards the end of your bed or yoga mat. And maybe even reach behind you, grab the foot. Again, we're looking for the engagement in our lower back along our spine. Take 10 breaths here, making sure that you take 10 breaths on one side and then 10 breaths on the other side. Then to move from this position, we're going to transition to a few poses on our belly. So to start with, once again, why not feel nice and long? Stretch your hands out in front of you, your toes behind you, but take a moment and allow your belly to lift away from the earth. Lift your belly away from the earth, bringing it against the spine. Press your toes, your toenails against the earth so that your knees lift. And in doing that, you're going to find a tightness in your glutes and again, those muscles along the lower back. So belly drawn into spine, toenails pressing against the mat, knees lifted, glutes engaged, and you're feeling nice and long. Good. Just take a few breaths here to feel this engagement along the length of your body. Stretch the fingertips out a little bit further in front of you. Stretch the toes a little bit further behind you. You can even lift the right leg, stretch the right leg a little bit longer, and then place the right leg with intention back down to the mat, the earth, your bed. Same thing with the left side. Lift the left leg, let the toes really reach a little bit longer. Let that leg get a little bit longer and then place the leg with intention back down to your mat or your bed. Then bring the hands underneath you, a little bit like a pillow, and just rest your head here. You want to take a scan of your lower back. See if you feel any tightness and pinching. If you do, separate your feet a little bit just to give your sacrum a bit more room. If that feels comfortable, you can press up onto your forearms. And it's not quite a vacation. You want to slide your elbows towards your hips and let your heart rise up. There's a tendency to have your shoulder by your chin or by your ears. You don't want that. You want a nice long neck. Draw the shoulders in, draw your elbows in towards your hips. Heart moving forward and breathing here. Don't necessarily have to stay here for 10 breaths, but you want to feel this engagement in your lower back all the way up to your middle back. If this is quite easy for you, you're more than welcome to extend your arms and do this pose with straight arms. I've got unusually long arms, so this isn't so comfortable for me. I prefer to stay down in my low cobra. Another option is to bend the knees, letting the toes reach up towards the sky. This is great because you'll feel this in the front of your hips and along the quadriceps, which we will engage for the last pose. You might also want to take this as a chance to make circles with your ankles, point and flex the feet. Be kind to your feet, which take all the weight of your body as you're walking around all day long. Point and flex the feet a little bit more, breathing here. And then you can go ahead and extend one leg or reach behind you, grab the toes, pivot so your elbow is facing the sky. So elbow pointed up, hands flat, palms flat on your foot, and then bring your heel down towards your bum. This is great. It's going to open up your shoulder. You're also going to feel this bit in the tricep arm muscles. And breathe here. You want your hip to move down towards the earth, feeling this once again in your quadriceps, the muscles right here along the front of your thigh. It's a nice way to just give yourself a gentle morning stretch or evening stretch before you go to bed. Take a few breaths there and then be sure to switch sides. These are just transition poses, so there's no need to hold them for the full 10 breaths. Just so you kind of open yourself up, release some tension, feel good. Breathing here. Good. When that feels about right for you, you can press back into child's pose. Separate your knees as much as you need to in order to ease your belly between your thighs. You want your back to feel long and really feel like you're reaching your fingertips forward. Feel free to come to what we call cupcake hands, meaning that you come to just the tips of your fingers. This will give you a chance to sink your heart down a little bit lower. When you do that, you might feel it a bit more in your shoulder blades or your shoulders. You're aiming to do whatever feels good for you, which creates a little bit of engagement in any areas where you might feel tight. In this case, the shoulder blades. So make sure that you're resting your head against the earth, your heart coming into contact against the earth. Give this a kind of nurturing moment. Voila. And then come to your knees and allow there to be a line between your knees and your hips. And we're going to just sort of melt our hearts to the earth a little bit more. Walk your hands forward as far as you can and release your heart down to the mat. You want to feel the engagement along your spine, particularly along the middle back and even the upper back. This is just a transition pose, so there's no real need to stay here for 10 breaths, just long enough so that it feels good. To come out of this puppy pose, why not come to all fours and let's just do a little warm up for the wrist. Pivot your hands so that the fingertips are pointing towards the edge of your mat or your bed, and just rock back and forth for a moment. And then switch, bringing your hands, one set of fingers towards your knees, the other fingers away towards the front of the yoga mat or the bed, and rock back and forth. And then when that starts to feel comfortable, you can switch. Give yourself time here, open up your wrist, release any strain that you might be feeling from working on a keyboard all day. Give yourself a chance to prepare for a full day of work in front of the keyboard. And then for the last one, you want your fingertips facing the knees, so the fingertips are facing the knees, and you're simply rocking back and forth. Okay. And when that starts to feel really good, you can curl your toes, slowly bring your hips back to the heels, and you're peeling your hands away from the mat. So your fingertips are the very last to come up, and then you get to have a seat on your heels. This might not be incredibly comfortable, but you want to get a chance to sort of open up the arches of your feet. Make sure all 10 toes are pointing forward. Just want to breathe here for a moment with a nice long spine. This will be nice preparation for our final pose, which is saddle pose. And this is one that we will try to hold for 10 breaths. So let's get comfortable. First option is to bring a pillow in between the creases of your calf and your thighs. Squeeze that really into the crease, and then you can have a seat on the pillow. You might want to start with the toes curled or the feet flat on the mat. If this feels comfortable for you, if you're not feeling any strain in the knees, then go ahead and move your feet to just outside the hips and have a seat on your cushion. You might feel this in the front of your feet. You might start to feel this on the quadriceps, the area that we're looking to engage for this posture. If you feel like your ribs are really poking out, take a moment and adjust, bringing your ribs back to that central line of your body. If this feels comfortable, you might want to take the next step. You can use 1, 2, 3 pillows, as many pillows as you need to in order to feel comfortable. This time you're not going to sit on the pillows, we're going to stack them a bit like a ramp behind us. Good. So go slowly, adjust as you need to. You're going to walk your hands back, bending at the elbows. You're seated on your yoga mat or your bed, and just slowly come to a reclining position. Maybe you stop here. Maybe you're feeling this in your quadriceps, you're feeling this in the front of your feet, you're feeling this in your back. Maybe this is enough. If you want to go a little bit further, feel free to recline all of the way, allowing your heart to be open. You want to find a position that's comfortable, a position that you can stay in for 10 slow, easy breaths. Your point of engagement here is definitely the quadriceps, the front of your feet, your back. If you're feeling this in your knees, any pain at all in your knees, come out of the position and adjust. To come out of the position, bring your chin to your chest, press against your elbows,
and slowly walk your way up.
And that would be the sequence of yoga or yin positions that I would suggest for kind of waking yourself up in the morning or helping you to wind down in the evening before you go to sleep. Thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you found something useful in the yin sequence. If you have any suggestions or comments, please send me a note. I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Namaste.